In business, you'll hear people talk a lot about the product life cycle. So let's talk about what that is, what are the stages, and why it's important. So the product life cycle are the stages a product goes through from its introduction to the market until it's removable, typically including introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. And that's this graph right down here. These stages are used to inform marketing strategies and decisions throughout the product's lifespan. Yeah, so knowing where your product is along this curve is very important to making decisions about investment or divestment or selling off or any of these things. And all products go through this life cycle at least once. Now that's an interesting statement because it implies that it can go through the cycle more than once. And there are products that come back to life after years of being in decline or near death. They will pop back in and they will become popular again. So the product life cycle consists of introduction to the market, so that's down here, growth of sales and awareness, that's this phase right in there, maturity and peak sales, so that's where it comes up here, hits the peak. Then there's decline, so this is where it starts going downhill. Typically you'll have more competitors. And then finally, you'll have the death or end of life. And end of life is something that this is a phase that a lot of companies and a lot of business schools don't talk about, but it is planned and executed in order to keep customers. This is a graph of sales of a typical product going through the product life cycle. And this zone up here is profitability. This zone down here is loss. This is total market sales. So this is just the amount of sales, and starts and goes up here and then declines. This is the total market profits. And as you can see, it starts negative because people are investing and they are willing to take a loss initially until they get the product moving along. And then during the growth phase, it starts to become profitable, comes this way. At the end of life, it will cross the point where it is no longer profitable, most likely, and then it will be closed out. Okay? So let's talk about these stages in detail. And the first one is introduction. It's the initial period when customers are informed or educated about a coming product. And it can be an existing product or a coming product. It's better to inform the customer that the product's coming out. However, the risk of that is you're also informing your competitors. There's product promotion. That's part of the 5 Ps. So you make customers aware of the product. An example of this is EV cars in the mid-2020s, 2024, and so on. You do free giveaways, low price specials, test drives in order to get people interested. You can test the product in limited areas to determine a reaction. So food companies often do this. They'll put food products at restaurant chains, or they'll release them at a grocery store in a limited area just to see what customer reactions are going to be. Costs of producing and advertising the product usually is a better term, usually exceeds the revenue. So this is a loss phase. So you're typically in a loss phase here. And you can set an initial high price if customer demand is high or there's no competing products. And this is called a price skimming strategy. We'll talk about that in detail later. An example of this is early adopters of Apple's iPhones and EV cars. People who did this were willing to pay more money. And so you do not have to operate at a loss if there are customers who are willing to pay premium prices. This was also true of the early VHS recorders. I remember them selling for $10,000. The last one I bought was $200. Of course, now they're at this phase. But yeah, that's an example of you can start out with a really high price. Or you can use a low price intro strategy to keep competitors out, because if a competitor sees a low price and they do the numbers and they say, oh, no, this is a loss, they're not going to enter the market, or they're going to be very reluctant to enter the market. And an example of that is Apple's iTunes, where they just priced it so low that you'd have to have a huge investment and a long time before you could even begin to compete with them. So more on introduction. The introduction stage characteristics: smaller negative profits with kind of a repeat. unless your price skimming strategy can work. Low sales volume because, yeah, people don't know about it. You're down here. High production costs, economies of scale, you don't have those yet. You're still producing small numbers. High marketing costs because you have to do training, you have to dig up new sales channels. Local or limited distribution, yes. Typically, this is a smart strategy because you don't have unlimited money to open up new channels. A lot of small companies will make that mistake and go broke. But yeah, local or limited distribution and frequent product mods. So yeah, early on, there's cost reduction in manufacturing and in design and in packaging, frequent product modifications. So these are things like costs. As you figure out how to manufacture it more efficiently or at a lower cost, substitute plastic parts for metal parts and so on, change the packaging. It can also be delivery, a lot of things like that. High failure rate of new products, yes. So in this phase, you'll have a lot of products that are coming back to you on warranty that are just not working right. Customers are unhappy with them. Then there's heavy promotion. So in this phase, you are typically throwing in a lot of money to try to push yourself into the growth phase, to teach people about the product, what it can do for them, and why they should buy it. And oftentimes there's light or no competition, especially if you're got the first mover benefits there. Second phase is growth, and that's between these two gray lines. And that's where it's starting to pick up. Sales of a product increase relatively rapidly. Marketing consists of a lot of promotion to reinforce product features. So early adopters already know about your product, but now you're trying to reach other people. You're trying to reinforce the idea that you have a good product, that here's what it can do for the customer. EV cars are probably in the growth phase right now. Cost, convenience, less time and maintenance are all these features that they're pushing. So in this phase, you should start getting your investment back. Yes, it should become profitable at this point. But prices may have to be adjusted down if competing products show up or substitute products show up. Growth phase continued. So sales accelerate. You can see that here on the purple line. Profits increase to sustainable levels. Yes, that has to be happening because you got to start getting your money back or this is going to be a really short life cycle. It's going to go like that. Good distribution is significant for success. I have seen small companies, especially back in the early days of PCs, they popped out with some product. They became very successful. We'd call it viral today, but they just couldn't deliver the product. Increasing and retaining market share and enhancing profits is key. Yes, because if you don't start making money, the product life cycle is going to look like that, and it's going to decline really fast. Large firms may acquire pioneering firms. This is very typical. The small companies that are successful get snapped up by bigger firms. Competitors enter the market because, yes, they see it's profitable. You've done all the hard work and the risky work, and now they're going to jump in on it. Prices normally decrease towards the end of growth. Yes, here, because, again, competition, substitute products are going to start showing up. And promotion, more aggressive brand-based ads and pushing the differences between brands. So if you're in this area, you're going to have to start advertising to your customers why your product is better and different than the competitors or substitute products. So the marketing shifts from education, notifying customers the product exists, to comparison with competition. The third stage is maturity. So that's this right here. And you have more competition, you have more substitute products enter the market. Sales level out from competition, so it starts getting flat like up in here, or market saturation. Yeah, you're just selling too many. At one point, the United States reached 2.8 TVs per household, and they just weren't going to sell very many more. So the maturity can vary significantly in length. So this thing can flatten out and go for a long way, or it can be very sharp and start down very quickly. Competition is often based on small feature and function changes. So with laundry detergent, it's fragrance, color, something like that, anti-wrinkle. Or sizzle, Coke versus Pepsi. Basically, it's the same type of product, but you have to differentiate yourself on something. One is for younger people, older people, something like that. Or price. If your product is starting to become a commodity, which is not good, like gasoline, you have to start selling it on something like no knock, or your car is happier drinking our gasoline. You can do a line extension, and the definition of that is a new flavor, size, color, model with your existing brand name in an existing category. An example of that is Kool-Aid went from 3 flavors to 10 flavors when I was a kid. Pepsi tried Pepsi Clear, Coke does Coke Zero, and so on. Promotion strategies in this phase center on keeping customers aware of the product, because there are now competitors, there's now substitutes, and people are pecking away at your product customer base. You can change or upgrade product design, so this is called product differentiation, in order to keep market share. An example of this are cell phones. I mean, cell phones started out very basic. They added cameras, those cameras improved, they added other functions. Internal combustion cars, they're starting to push the fact that, better gas mileage and lower maintenance and et cetera, et cetera. Air travel, PCs, coffee shops, these are all companies that have to keep pushing awareness. So Starbucks versus Amazon versus whoever else is out there. So continuing on with maturity, the characteristics are sales growth, but a decreasing rate. So that's up here. It's starting to slow down. The line flattens. Markets are saturated. So again, the US TV market is a good example of that. Product line extensions through product variations. You want to change colors, features, functions, something like that. And then you expand locally or globally in order to find new markets and new customers. Then there's decline. And this is where a lot of textbooks and a lot of MBA programs and a lot of companies stop their thinking. And it's important to, yes, decline is very important in order to keep customers, milk the product for all it's worth, but it's not the end of the game. Sales and profits of a product decline, so demand is falling, customers have it. So for example, everybody owns a TV, or substitutes. Everybody has phones, they don't need TVs anymore. A lot of people just watch on their phone. An example of that is cable TV is falling out because people have internet, so cable TV is less interesting. Or competitors are gaining market share, or both of these things are happening. If firms do not prepare for this decline, their income and business may suddenly collapse or fail. Yeah, there's a lot of one product companies that when the end of the road is coming up, they kind of ignore it. One company that did that was Kodak. Kodak was so sold on their film and film processing that they could see digital cameras coming. In fact, they invented a digital camera and they just ignored it. They pretend like it wasn't coming. Firms often start planning 2+ years before any anticipated decline with a future product revision. So when you see it coming, you may want to revise your products, or you may want to be looking for a new product line altogether, like Kodak should have been looking at digital cameras. Internal combustion cars versus electric vehicles, broadcast TV versus cable versus internet. So yeah, we're all kind of familiar with what's happened or happening here. And products can also re-enter the product lifecycle. So this is very common in fashion. You'll see something that went out of fashion 10 or 20 years ago. I'll see stuff from when I was a kid suddenly pop back in and start through the product lifecycle. Decline characteristics include sales and profits fall. We can see that here. Rate of decline varies with the rate of change in customer tastes and rate of new product introductions. So yeah, this depends on how fast competitors are coming in, substitutions are coming in. Do customers already have the product? Is it already saturated? How fast did that happen? Most advertising and sales promotion is eliminated in this phase because customers already know about it. And you need to maintain profitability as long as possible. And trade allowances are eliminated. And the definition of a trade allowance is a refund reimbursement a manufacturer gives to a retailer or distributor for participating in a sponsored advertising or promotion campaign. So yeah, when I worked in retail in school, certain people would give us in-store posters and stand-ups and all this other stuff, racks and rather expensive stuff. But as a product reaches end of life, those things also end. So death or end of life, and that's over here. It's when a product is no longer economically feasible to market because the cost to make it, the competition, distribution, whatever, is just too much. So an example of this may be internal combustion engine cars that may be coming to the end because they have 30% more parts than an electric vehicle. Tablet computers are having a more limited distribution than they used to. And end of life needs to be planned. This is not something that you should just allow to happen. A lack of planning can cause severe company and customer problems. So what's going to replace the revenue stream in your company when that thing disappears? I have seen companies say, oh, it's only, $600 million. Well, $600 million is a lot of money. It's a lot of jobs also. And it makes your company look bad if that thing just disappears suddenly. Your investors are going to look at that kind of, wondering what happened, why you gave it up so easily. And also your customers are going to say, hey, why did you just leave me in the ditch? So what are customers going to do for a replacement? Are they going to go to a competitor? Is that going to give your competitor a foot in the door for other products that you sell? Do you sell off? Do you ramp down or shut down? So what do you do with your production capacity? Examples are film cameras, DDT, storage, steam engines, light bulbs, incandescent versus compact fluorescent versus LED. There's something that you're taught when you learn to fly, and they say when a plane's engine stops, there's two ways to land. In control or out of control, you choose. This is very true when a source of revenue stops, when a product is dying. There's two ways to land that product, either in control or out of control, and you get to choose. And how you choose is going to affect your customers and your revenue stream. So some characteristics: the product is removed from active marketing. Support may continue and can be very profitable. Yes, I worked in software, and when a company ended the software program, a lot of times support went on for a very long time and it was very profitable. I mean, everything was there to support it already. All you had to do is keep it going and collect money. So these are things like cars, so older cars taken off the market, but you still sell parts. Software, as I just mentioned, appliances, you still sell replacement parts. It's good to keep manuals, safety information, specifications, and stuff available. I've seen companies yank this off the internet as soon as the product went off marketing. I don't know why. I don't know why they would do that. I mean, to me, I don't know, kind of shows a bad attitude or something. And as long as I'm using the product, I want to have it supported, especially if it's not costing them anything, like keeping a manual available. You may have to keep service parts available by law. So for example, automobiles have a limited amount of time that you have to have the products available. And a little note here, there are many products that end product support online servers, for example, creating lawsuits and bad PR for companies. This is not good. So a lot of companies have products that are internet connected, and when they have financial trouble, they just drop the servers and your product is no longer useful. It can't be used at all. In fact, there's been speakers, there's been some other consumer products that just quit working. Let's talk about obsolescence in the product life cycle. In the US, about 20,000 new products are introduced each year. Most of those are end of life within 6 months. Ouch. Obsolete, the definition is less useful than in the past. There's fashion obsolescence. It's no longer in fashion. And an example of this is when the demand for some type of clothes just decline over time. So yeah, when I was in college, there was something called painter pants. Everybody had to have them. They looked like blue jeans, but they were kind of off-white. Everybody had to have them. Within a year, nobody wanted them. Then there's the iPhone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 99, up to who knows what, infinity. Technological obsolescence. So this is being inferior to new products. When HP makes faster printers, the old models are subject to technological obsolescence. The iPod gave way to the iPhone. Manual typewriters were replaced by electrics. Those were replaced by balls, which is this thing over here. Then wheel discs, word processors, and finally PCs. Speech type word processors are actually starting to get pretty good now. So even the PC software is going to have to keep up with that or it's going to be obsolete. So like Microsoft Word, yeah, now you're able to talk to your computer and the accuracy is going up. I suspect one of these days it's going to pretty much either be a part of Word or Word will get replaced with something that can listen and type for you. This is a summary of what we just talked about. These are the phases, and these are the different things that one needs to know or needs to do during each phase. I'll let you look that over, but again, it's just a summary of what we discussed. Okay, so this is the end of section 8. Let's go on to topic 9, which is pricing.